So this is the homework solutions for 3-3. So the first question is dealing about this word problem. It says we studied a cab ride by looking at the price for certain distances in table and graph form. We found that the initial cost of starting the trip was $5.10, which means that you have to pay $5.10 for 0 miles traveled. We also found that the slope of the line was $2.60, which means that you paid $2.60 per mile. And using that, in lesson 3-2, we wrote a formula that describes the cost of the trip, which we came up to be C is equal to 5.1 plus 2.6 M. So this application is using that formula, and what it's asking is, question 1, how much would it cost for a 17-mile trip to the airport? Well, 17 mile is the number that's given to us. Mile is replacing M, so the 17 right here replaced the M in the equation, so it did 5.1 plus 2.6 times 17, and when you do that out, you got 49.3. Two things to note. One, I had to multiply first, so 2.6 times 17 first, then take your answer, add 5.1. And also, because we're dealing with cost, money, make sure that you add a 0 after the 0.3, because you would never pay somebody $49.3. You would pay someone $49.30. Okay, so question 2, if you have budgeted $18 for a cab ride to tour the downtown area, how far can you go? Set up and solve an equation. Well, let's first think, what is the first thing that's given to us? $18. You have to ask yourself, does that represent a C or an M? Well, dollars is cost. So the 18 replaced the C in the equation, and now we have to solve this equation for M. So first thing, to solve for M, I have to get rid of this 5.1. It's positive, so I'm going to subtract 5.1 from both sides. That gives you 12.9. And then because 2.6 is being multiplied into M, we have to divide both sides by 2.6. And 12.9 divided by 2.6 is approximately, that's what that symbol is, 4.96, which means that you have to go a little bit less than 5 miles. Okay, moving on to question number 3. It says, here's a smaller version of the graph describing car rides from lesson 3-1. Does your answer to question 2 match the information on the graph? Well, here's $18 right here. If I go across that line, look all the way across, where's the dot that it corresponds with? If I look above, it's right above the 5 miles. So yes, it does. Okay. Question 4 is getting into literal equations. So we did this in lesson 3-3, just this one. So it says solve the equation for M. So to solve this equation for M, I want to make it so that the equation says M equals, like I have down here on the bottom. So to do that, we have to first get rid of the 5.1, subtract 5.1 from both sides. Notice C and 5.1 are not like terms. So when you write it, it's just C take away 5.1 equals 2.6M. How is a 2.6 attached to M? Multiplication. So we're going to divide both sides by 2.6. And because nothing here is like terms, right, I could divide 5.1 and 2.6, but that's not really going to help us because this C is attached to it. We're just going to leave it just like that. And we get C minus 5.1 all over 2.6 is equal to M. And this is the formula that we can use if we're given cost instead of miles, okay? So kind of like in question 2, when it said, well, what if the cost was $18, how many miles? This would have been a lot easier to do if you had done this equation already. So just something to keep in mind. All right, let's keep on going. So it says using that equation that we just came up with in question 4, I wrote it all over. Use a calculator to fill in this table. Don't worry about spreadsheet, we're not really focusing on that. And we're on to the nearest 1/10 of a mile. Just remember 1/10 of a mile is 1 decimal place. So I'm gonna take the cost, all of these numbers are gonna be replacing C. So it's 8, take away 5.1, get an answer, okay, it'll be 2.9, and 2.9 divided by 2.6 gives you 1.1, okay? Then you would do it again. 10 take away 5.1, 4.9 divided by 2.6 gives you 1.9, and so on. All right, so moving on, the rest of this question is going to refer to this problem. So it says, we also studied how the value of a car depreciates after its purchase. So depreciate, remember, it means the value goes down. The original value of the car 0 years after purchase was $15,000. So again, this is going back to a table that we looked at in lesson 3-1. And we found that every year the value decreased by $2,000. So write a formula. Well, it's starting at 15,000. So value equals 15,000 and it's depreciating, it's losing, which is why I have to subtract 2,000 every year. So 15,000 is a start, minus $2,000 every year. Question 7, how much was the car worth 6 years after it was purchased? Well, I'm going to take this T, replace it with a 6. Again, make sure you multiply first, 2,000 times 6, get an answer, and subtract that answer from 15,000. When was the car worth half of what it was purchased for? Provide your answer in years and months. Well, first thing is, when was the car worth half? Well, we know it started at 15,000, so half of 15,000, we divide that by 2. So I want to know, when is it going to be worth $7,500? So I'm going to take this equation that we have up here in number 6, and I'm going to replace the value with 7,500. So we have 7,500 is equal to 15,000, take away 2,000 T. Solve this equation for T. So I've subtracted 15,000 from both sides. Note you got a negative here. That's okay because we have a negative over here. So we're not going to end up negative in the end. It's okay. So 7,500 take away 15,000 is negative 7,500. Well, this is being multiplied into T, so I have to divide by negative 2,000. A negative divided by a negative is a positive, and 7,500 divided by 2,000 is 3.75, which means it's about 3 years and 9 months. All right, and then it gives you the graph, and it's saying, does your answer to question 2 match the information from the graph? Okay, yes, it does. 3.75, 7,500 is right around here, so yes, and I'm thinking that it meant to say, does your answer from question 8 match the information in the graph, not question 2? So yes, it's a little bit less than 8,000, which is perfect. Okay, draw an arrow to the location on the graph that you decide, so there's my arrow. All right, moving on, next page. How long does the car take for that car to have no value? Well, no value means that it has a value of $0. So I'm going to put a 0 in replace of the value, solve the equation, and you get 7.5, which means that after 7.5 years, the car is worth nothing. All right. Find an equation that provides the number of years since the car was purchased in terms of its value. That's basically saying solve this equation that we found earlier in question number 6 and solve it for T. So to solve it for T, we have to subtract 15,000 first. Note V and 15,000 are not like terms, so I'm just going to leave it. V take away 15,000, and then I'm going to divide both sides by negative 2,000. And again, nothing can combine or simplify, so we're just going to leave it just like that, and there's your final answer. All right, and then question number 12 is some more practice with solving literal equations. We have P is equal to 2L plus 2W. I want you to solve for W. So I had to subtract both sides by 2L, which means I have P take away 2L, and then divide both sides by 2, which let P take away 2L divided by 2. And I just want to note that there is another way that you can write this. It would be P over 2 minus L. Okay, so you could write it another way, just in case that you have something different, you can see if that's correct. All right, so now question number 13 is asking you to examine the relationship between perimeter and its area. So if a perimeter is 200, the length is 10, what's the width? Well, to get these answers, I use my equation from number 12. So P, we know is 200. Okay, so I'm taking these numbers, 200, take away 2 times 10, because the length is 10. So 200 take away 20 is 180, divided by 2 is 90. And that's what you're going to do for all of these. And then to find the area, length times width, so it's 10 times 90 is 900. All right, and then question 14 you didn't have to do. And then we just have a couple prep skill questions. These question 1 are going back to writing inequalities. This is something that we did in chapter 2. Question 2, write a verbal description of the interval described by each quality. This is just saying a number is less than or equal to 3. A number is greater than negative 10. A number is in between 300 and 500. And this one says a number is greater than or equal to 0 and less than 9. Okay, I didn't write those out. I didn't have enough room to do that, but those would be the answers. And then question 13, This is just asking you to simplify, so make sure when you're distributing that, like for example in B and C, see how there's a negative in front of the parentheses, make sure you're distributing that negative. I showed all my work over here, check it. If you have any questions, please let me know. And question 4 are asking you to solve each equation. Again, I have all my work shown. Please let me know if you have any questions. Also note that there are 2 different worksheets with extra practice for you to do with these. The solving equations one has like 100 problems. Please don't do all 100. Do maybe every 5th problem. So count by 5s, 5s, 10, 15, 20. The answers are also there. So do as many problems as you feel like you need to so you understand it. And again, if you have any questions, please let me know.